Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today's tutorial will be making this cute dress I saw online. I thought I'll give it a go and I think it came out quite well. For your fabric, for the measurement, you're going to grab the biggest part of your circumference, if it's your hip or your bust, and then add about 10 inches, and that will give you how much fabric you're going to need. So I'm cutting the back first. So I folded my fabric. Make sure you fold your fabric. I'm measuring my neckline and measuring from the nape of my neck to wherever I want the sleeve to be. So I'm measuring about 15 inches for me. So it depends how long you want the sleeve to be. And then I'm doing my shoulder slope, which is 1 inch down from the sleeve measurement, and then connect that to your neckline. And now I'm going to measure the opening of the sleeve, which is 10 inches for me. My normal measurement is 8.5 for my armhole measurement, but for this I'll be doing 10 inches to give it enough room, and then sewing allowance. So I'm just joining the sleeve area. From that sleeve area, that will be where I'll be marking my bust measurement. So I'm just extending the line so I can see where I'm measuring. So 1/4 of my bust measurement, I'll place that on there and then add 3 inches. So if the 1/4 of your bust measurement is 10 inches, add 3 inches and that will give you 13. So I'm just marking that on my bust area. And then from your shoulder to wherever your waist is usually 16.5 if you're tall. So I'm using 16, and then shoulder to my hip is 24. So I'm just marking that so I know to place the measurements in the right places. So that's the waist and that's the hip, and then on my waist I'm doing 1/4 of my waist measurement and then add 3 inches extra for ease, and then sewing allowance. And same for the hip, 1/4 of my hip and plus 3 inches, and then just join that. But if you want your dress to be just straight up and down, then you could just do your hip measurement plus 3 or 4 inches and just do a straight line. But I'm just trying to give this dress a bit of shaping, and yeah, just connect that. So you can see this fabric is on fold. When you're doing, make sure your fabric is on fold, and to know how much you're going to fold, it will be your hip measurement, or wherever, if your bust circumference is bigger, then it will be whichever part of your body is bigger. So my hip is the biggest part, so hip measurements plus I usually add about 10 inches just to have enough room, and then that's what you're going to need. So your hip measurement, 1/4 of your hip measurement plus 4 inches, and then when you fold it, that's what you measure. So mine was about 16. I folded about 16 inches, so altogether it'll be 32 inches because it's on fold. If it's on fold, then it'll be 16. So at the bottom as well, the length, where the length of the dress is, the measurement at the bottom will be the same measurement on the hip area. You can add about 1 inch just to give it enough room to move around. And then my neck depth is 3 inches. My neck width, I'm not sure if I mentioned that, the neck width is 4 inches and the neck depth is 3 inches. And I'm just cutting out my fabric. Okay, I'm just trying to fold it just to get the creasing so I know where the middle part is. I'm just making a marking to make sure I can see where the mid part of my neckline. Now from wherever you want your shoulder to fall, not your shoulder to fall, but you know what I mean. where you want it, we're going to draw a straight line. That's where we're going to place the fabric. Remember the fabric that goes over the shoulder when in the first video? Yeah, we're just going to determine where we want that. If you want it on the left or you want it on the right, so you draw a straight line from the end of that neckline area. You can see what I'm doing. And then from your neckline, we're going to measure about 3.5 inches. Depends how much you want it to come down. I'm doing 3.5 inches. If you want it 4 inches, 5 inches is up to you. It just depends how much you want it to fall on your shoulder. And then in the middle of the neckline, the midpoint of the neckline, we're going to measure 1.5 inches, and you're just going to connect that like so from the other neckline, like this. You can see from that place, yeah, and then connect it all the way to the 3.5 inch mark, like that. I hope that makes sense and I'm not moving too fast. Yeah, so connect, and then we're just going to use, before we cut it out, we're going to use that pattern to cut out the front pattern. So I'm just trying to measure how much is there, because we're going to cut it out, but that measurement will determine how much fabric we'll need at the top for the strap. You see what I mean? And then, but just make sure you get the measurement from that end of the neckline to where the marking is. Mine is 4.5, and we're going to need that measurement later. You'll see when once you get to that stage. I'm just cutting that. I'm cutting out both front and back. Before you cut out both front and back, make sure your fabrics are placed wrong sides facing each other, like this. So I've cut out the front. So I'm placing the fabrics, the dress pattern, wrong sides facing each other. So it'll be like how you would wear it. So you make sure you cut in the right sides. If English too hard, but you get what I mean. um so I'm just pinning the shoulder areas in place, so we get the accurate measurement. You can see one on this side, one is longer than the other. So I'm just pinning it because we're going to cut it out as well. We're going to use that front pattern to cut out the back pattern. So just to make sure it's accurate, so I'm pinning everything and then cut it out. So that will be where the shoulder will fall. So before you do this, make sure if you want it on the right, make sure you have it on the right. If you want it on the left, just make sure before you cut it out, make sure you're doing the right thing. Okay, and that's the shoulder drop there. Now we're going to cut out facing for the neck area. Grab your fabric, fold it in half, the plain fabric you want to use or the other fabric you want to use for the strap, and then fold the neckline. Focus on the neckline, not the shoulder area, because you know it's not equal. So fold the neckline, place it on the folded fabric, and then draw out the neckline area like this. You can see, and then measure 3 inches all round, 3 inches all the way around. Yeah, okay, and then place that to cut out the back one as well. Okay, we use that to cut out the back one as well, and that's what we've just cut out, and that's what it looks like. Just pin that down. Make sure you pin it on the wrong side, so right side of the plain fabric, place on the wrong side. This is the strap. To determine how much strap you're going to need, it's your dress length. Add about 20 inches just to give you enough room. Your dress length times 2 and then add 20 inches. I'm just cutting out the pockets here as well. So I cut out 4. So I'm placing my facing, right sides of the facing on the wrong side of the dress. That's important. You'll see why in a minute. So once you sew that down, notch the curve area and then flip it onto the right side and then fold in the raw edges of the facing. Iron it, very important to iron, and then sew it down. That's it. So I'm trying to determine the length of the strap, but this is unnecessary. Just do the length of your dress and add about 20 inches, and you know how much fabric you need for the strap. I cut out 2 of this and then sew it together and then turn it to the right side. I'm just going to iron that. So your dress length times 2. My dress length is 40 times 2, that's 80, and then I'm adding extra 20 inches just to give it enough allowance. If I need to cut anything off, then I know I need to cut it off, but it's better to have extra than not enough. I'm just showing you how we're going to place it. You can see where I've made the marking. That's the 4.5 inches. Yeah, so that's the extra 4.5 inches, but we'll still do that properly later. So to sew our fabric, we're going to sew wrong sides facing each other first. If you're not new to my channel, you know what we're doing. Sewing wrong sides facing each other first because we want a clean finish on the inside. I'm just adding the pockets. Just add the pockets. Our little U-shaped fabrics. We've made a notch to know where for some reason, I don't know why that's not showing in this video, but to know where to put your pocket, it's 1 inch below the waist area, and then from that point measure 7 inches downward, and then you could determine. If you've seen my other videos, you've seen that you'll see how to do this, but we've sewn first. We sew it wrong sides facing each other, including the pocket, and then we're going to turn it to the wrong side. So now it's a right side facing each other as you would normally sew, and then we're just going to sew 1/2 inch all round, making sure you cover all the raw edges. So you can make sure you iron this first so it's nice and flat on the sides like this. Yeah, like this. Make sure all the sides are out like that, and then so I've ironed the bottom, which is the M of the dress. Fold it twice. Fold about 1/4 inch first, and then fold. I folded in about 2 inches because I added 2 extra inches for the M area. So when you're doing the length of your dress, make sure you add the M in allowance. So I'm just taking out the pocket because we're going to attach the strap now. Remember the 4.5 inches we took out earlier? I'm just measuring that on the strap. The strap is folded, by the way. So I've already sewn the strap. You can see. So where we've made that marking, we're going to place that on the neckline. And remember the first straight line we made at the beginning in front? Yeah, that's where we're going to place our strap. It's just showing you where the strap will go. So the edge of the strap will be on the line, and then so the strap measures the length of the dress times 2 plus 20 inches by 3 inches. So I've got 2 straps that I cut out, and then I sew them together to make this. I prefer it like this. You can always fold the edges and all that, but I think it's neater when you sew two together. I'm just pinning that down on the dress. Make sure you only pin one side because we're going to sew it on each side, not together. If you sew it together, you're not going to have a dress. You won't be able to wear it, would you? Right, so flip it to the other side and then fold. Remember where the marking is. Make sure that marking is placed on the neckline. Yes. And then we've pinned all that down. We're just going to sew. First, I'm going to sew the hem of the dress. So fold that fabric in. I was trying to decide whether to leave the fabric just dangling there. I was trying to see if I could add a little satin to the dress, but no, then I changed my mind. So I cut off cut the fabric, the excess fabric off. Leave a little bit so you can fold it into the hem of the dress. So fold it in and then sew it together into the hem. Yes, 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 yes. I enjoy making this. Do you know, I haven't had time to sew in a while, so when I do get time to sew, it feels nice. Honestly, this is my therapy. I've been complaining that I haven't had time to sew. Like sometimes I'm not even like it's even more of a motivation thing. Like I'm not motivated to sew. I'm just like there. So now I'm just trying to push myself and sew because actually sewing gives me joy. Like it's important to do things that give you joy. So yeah, that's why I learn in therapy. So yeah, just always find time to do things that brings you joy. Whatever it is. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant. Just find time for yourself. Find time to zone out. It's okay to actually do nothing. Yeah, it's okay. Sometimes take a day to do nothing. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm just pinning everything down. I'm going to sew the M like that. And we're just going to, once we're done there, we're going to sew the strap on each side. And that's it. Make sure when you're sewing your strap, you're not sewing it one side at a time, please. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this video and you've learned one or two. See you in my next video. Ta-ra!